passengers. Today, we are going off the rails with our own Canadian queen. She's a podcaster, speaker, mom, and a Sports Illustrated runway model. You guys may know her as the Bird's Papaya. But on the pod today is the one and only Sarah Landry. I am so excited for this one. We got to have some honest conversations surrounding body positivity, how to be confident when you just aren't feeling it, and of course, what it is like to freaking walk the runway for Sports Illustrated and how that all came about. I love this episode, and I hope y'all do too. Guys, welcome to the podcast, Sarah freaking Landry. What's up, girl?
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. I know our audiences have a weird crossover, and I got a lot of messages of people being very stoked that we were going to do this. So I'm like, you never know. Like, you never know where those crossovers exist, and we have a good little pool of them, which is interesting because where are you in the world?
So I've been all over. I started in Texas, moved to LA, then now I'm in Nashville.
I love Nashville.
It is the best.
And I'm in the suburbs outside of Toronto. So, like, it's so cool when, like, we merge like that.
It is wild. And I also had no idea I had so many Canadian people. So if you're in Canada right now, what's up? I love you guys. But I got so many DMs being like, our Canadian queen, we bow down. We love Sarah. I'm like, I am even more excited to have you on the podcast.
Oh, I know. I mean, I feel like Canadians are so cute. We still are, like, every single time somebody talks about Celine Dion or Shania Twain, you're like, they're Canadian. Like, we just have to. Ryan Gosling, Ryan Reynolds. Like, I had this running theory for a while that Canadians are the ones that'll do it the best. So I'm like, you can't tell me that, like, we didn't, like, Canada gave you Shania, we gave you Celine, we have both the Ryans. Are you kidding me right now?
I had no idea that Shania Twain was Canadian.
Not only is she Canadian, but she like, her whole story is like in Ontario, like where I live. Like, she has a very cool start. I went to the resort that she used to perform at when my parents took us there one year for a weekend. And I remember the stories, like, she used to do her performing started at this place called Deerhurst. And I watched it in the documentary talking about how when her parents passed away tragically in a car accident, she was left to, like, raise her younger siblings. And so she was working at Deerhurst Resort, paying the bills before she could, like, really go and make it in the world. And I was always like, oh, that's so cool, because that's, like, literally somewhere that's, I mean, driving distance for me. So
that is wild.
Yeah.
Who freaking knows?
It's wild.
Okay, out of all the Canadians, who is your top, like, the number one award for best celebrity Canadian? Who are you giving it to? Oh yeah, that's hard.
Okay, so it is hard, but I think the one that I feel is, and I had the opportunity to meet him a couple years ago, it's the one, you never know if you should meet the people you love, because what if they disappoint you, and then you have to, like, always watch them through that lens. Ryan Reynolds is one of the most genuine, and it freaks you out because I had to interview him for something, and he, like, looks you in the eye, and he's, like, very intentional, and he's very present, and he's very there, and his heart is, like, so in it, and so in it for, like, the fans. And I just thought that I walked away being like, is this real life? He is genuinely that cool. So I think Ryan Reynolds also just feels so unproblematic, and people just love him. And so there's that essence to him that when you talk about, and he's so proud to be Canadian too. So I think that's really cool. Like, he talks about Canada a lot, and I don't know. So he'd be one because I actually did get to meet him, and he was awesome.
We love that. Well,
not to say that Ryan Gosling isn't. It's just that if I had, like, Ryan Reynolds, he's just very special. Yeah, they both are, but I have to choose Ryan.
Yeah, he seems so down to earth. So, I mean, he's not listening to this podcast, but, we're going to dream big.
Know.
And if this makes it to Ryan Reynolds' DMs or his inbox, what is up? I will send you a trophy to Canada right now. Yeah. You're welcome, Ryan.
No,
oh my God.
Well, so sweet.
Yes, I'm also just, like, jealous you've been in the same vicinity as him, so you can.
To be honest, I didn't know that was happening. I was invited to, like, a screener, and I thought we were just watching the movie and he would present it, and so I would be, like, in the same room where he was, like, presenting the movie. And then about 15 minutes before, they were like, you're going to be going in to, like, a room where you're going to interview, like, ask him a question. And I was like, what? I didn't know. So maybe that's for the best, because I feel like if I had been given more time, I probably would have overthought it. So it was very much like, you're going into it. I didn't know that was happening, and so it was very much like a surprise and delight. And so it was neat. It's neat how intentional he is with people. But my biggest regret was that they told us like to leave our phones outside, and I listened, and I should have brought it in, because I feel he ended up, other people got pictures with him. I just got like video content with him that was like from the interview, but yeah, he was obviously like, I think his team's very protective, or like the people working were protective, but he was very generous with his time.
Well, next time, guys, if you're listening, you're in the room with a celebrity, bring your phone, break the rules.
Do you feel that the same way with you though? Like that you would rather people just ask you for a picture than sometimes like people come up and they talk to you and you can see the phone in their hand, and I don't want to be the guy to be like, do you want to take a picture? Because then it sounds like I feel like I'm, you know what I mean? Like it comes across in a way. And so I want people, like I actually saw Paris Hilton do something with a kid who was really excited to meet her. And she said, should we get a picture together? And I thought, I'm going to adopt that, because it doesn't sound, do you want to get a picture with me? It's, should we get a picture together? And I'm like, that's what I'm going to use from now on. Because I hate when people are like, oh, I didn't want to bother you, or I didn't want to ask. And I'm like, ask,
always
do
it.
Ask. Like, we talk into our phones all day, for Pete's sake, to people that we don't get to see in real life. If we get real life moments, like hug it out. It's special. Let's grab a picture together. 100%. Let's cherish how special it is that we have. Like, look at this. Even right now, the fact that like we're actually connected through our collective followings who like wanted us to be together. And I'm like, that's so cool. We barely interacted, and now we're like here having conversation together because people are like, oh my gosh, you two have to meet.
Well, yeah, 100%. And that's just like, I feel like a good rule of thumb in life. It's just like, always ask, because most of the time it's going to probably be a yes. And if it's not, okay, whatever, roll it off your shoulders. But yeah, you don't know unless you ask. And the worst, I'm sure you get this a lot, I will get people, like I was in Zara the other day, which like I looked like a train wreck. I was so hungover, like probably for the best that this person did not come up to me, because they're like, who is this troll? She looks nothing like she is on Instagram. I was not peppy. I was not in pink. I was down bad. But I got a DM and they're like, hey, like I saw you in Zara. Like I wanted to come say hi to you, but like I just didn't want to bother you. And in those moments, I'm like, wait, but I'm responding to your message and I'm so happy that you're messaging me. Like, please, even when I'm hungover in sweatpants, like come say hi, because it really does make our day. Like it makes me so excited to put a face to like a DM or something like that. It's never, ever, ever going to bother me. Like I actually enjoy it. So if you're listening, guys, always ask.
Human connection is everything. And I think the last few years have taught us anything, it's that. And I feel like with so much being online now, it feels like such an opportunity to sort of thank the people that are behind you. We our jobs and everything that we have is through, I mean, we've never been in a time, I guess it's always been that like celebrities have existed from like, and they made money off of like fan clubs and stuff, but we've never had opportunity where just anybody can start an Instagram or a TikTok or a blog, and you can create communities, and those communities are the reasons that we get opportunities. So I feel very much like y'all are, you might look to me and be like, oh my gosh, it's so nice to meet you. It's so nice for me to meet you. This is, I mean, it's everything. It might be one, and I think it's interesting because from my perspective, it might be one person that's coming up and saying hi, but it's what it's representing, right? It's the fact that these are real people and these are real stories, and we get to have exchanges about, you know, that DM that we had or something that they did that I maybe, you know, spurred them on to the idea of, stuff like that, right? Like I think it's a really interesting time that we get to sort of watch people's lives this way, but also if you get to see them in real life, it's the best. I feel that way. Like I have only ever once met somebody that I followed online that did not meet expectation, which is like out of thousands of people that I follow. There's only one time was it ever. And you know what? I've given her a ton of grace because she might have been just really shy in real life. We don't know. So I try and just like not let that be. People are allowed to have like react and be however if they have a boundary up and they don't want to meet you, that's fine. Like that is none of my business.
And also it's like, I always think about that because my biggest fear is when people meet me, I just want people to be like, she's the same as she is online.
Yes.
Like, I'm like, my biggest fear is someone tells their friend like, oh my God, I met Morgan. She sucks. She's literally so boring, so mean. I'm like, oh my God, that's my biggest fear. Like, I really do. My biggest goal, and I'm sure with you too, is I really try with my platform to be the same that I am in real life. The good, the bad, the messy, everything. So I'm like, oh my God, I hope they don't think that. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm sure I've been in line. I don't even know. I don't know why McDonald's came to my mind. I'm like, I don't go to McDonald's that much. But say I'm at McDonald's and I'm like on my period, or like my boyfriend just broke up with me, and I'm sure maybe I've had a bad time in public, so I do like to extend grace to people. Like you just, with everyone on the internet,
You never know.
even like the people who troll me, and I'm sure you understand this. It's like,
Yeah.
I always want to clap back and I always want to get offended, and it's really easy to be like, oh my God, what's wrong with this person? But then if you switch your mindset of like, maybe they're just having a really terrible day. Not saying that is an excuse to like tear someone down, but it almost makes you kind of come from a place of sympathy for them versus like, oh my God, people suck. Like, why are they like that? So I'm like, guys, let's just give everyone grace. Come on.
I know. I like to give people chances, but then if they go too far, then it's a bless them and block them situation. And I'm not blocking out of like resentment and anger. It's just like, I feel like you're not great and I'm obviously making you upset. And I feel like if I remove myself from your lens, that's going to be better for both of us. So 100%. Let's just do that. I think it's really weird. Like if you get blocked, it can be like really offensive, but it can also be a great opportunity to just reflect on the fact, like I have like over 2 million followers. I checked my list the other day. I have 168 people that I've ever blocked. Like I don't,
That's like actually not as many as I would think.
I felt like it was gonna be a lot more. Like I'm like, this is a long time. There must be more, but no, that I checked it the other day and that's how many I've blocked. So, yeah, I do believe that we can extend that grace, but not be the punching bag for people who are going through things. And I love, like, sometimes you can give people a chance. Like, I feel like people are getting snarky. Like, they get a little snarky with you, and then you, like, give them a chance, and then they just... Sometimes I'm like, I don't need repeat snarkiness. Like, that's not really working out for me personally. Or some people, like, I had one person who said something that was just, like, a little rude. She just, like, said I was being annoying, and then someone commented to her being like, you know, that's really unfair. Like, it's her page. She can post whatever she wants. Yeah. And then her response to that person was like to body shame and to be rude. And I was like, you just showed your cards. Now you're gone. Bye. Like you got your chance and now you're gone. But to your point, like I feel ultimately that a lot of people are like, oh, do you ever feel nervous in public that like people are going to see you at a down point? And I'm like, no, because I know who I am. And I've never been rude to anybody in my life. Like I would panic over that. If I accidentally hit somebody with my cart in a grocery store thing, I will think about that for the next decade. I do not need that on my head. There was one time I got a DM from somebody who told me that they had said hi to me in a bar and I walked right past them and I'm like, my nightmare. I know. You.
I would lose sleep over that.
I swear to God, I would never walk by somebody that was trying to say hi to me. Are you kidding me? I would be more, I'm still, that DM came in like 6 years ago. I still think about it because I'm like, God, that hurts me so bad because you really thought I was an asshole. And I just didn't hear her. So I really do think that I do extend empathy and understanding to a lot of people who might be having bad days or have boundaries when it comes to like in real life situations. Like that one girl that I met that kind of disappointed me. I don't know what her day was like. So I'm not going to judge her entire character after I've received years and years of content that has benefited my life. And she might have been having a bad day. The worst thing I could do is write her off as an entire human for a split second exchange, right? But yeah, no, like I think in real life interactions are so beautiful and sometimes what keeps you going, right? This isn't easy, especially people are out there to just troll you and be cruel and make fun of you. And so it's really nice to meet people who are kind, like, and are supportive. I'm never going to say no to that. I'm never going to say no to a hug. It's the best.
Are you like me where like someone goes in for a handshake and I'm like, oh, no, I'm a hugger. Like, give me a hug.
I know. I feel like, and it's funny because if I hug one person and then there's another friend of theirs beside them, I'm like, I'm going to have to hug you too now. Yeah, like, are you okay with that? Like, can I give you a hug? Like, No, I met somebody once years ago. I'd walked into the room and I'd shaken everybody's hands. And then he walked into the room and he hugged everybody. And the whole room just got lighter. And I thought, I want to be like that. I really want to be that kind of person that walks into the room and hugs, like welcomes that way. And so I've really always thought about him. His name is Dante Colley, and he was just one of the most beautiful, present people. And it just reminded me the power of a hug for those who are ready to receive it.
100%. It's like energy. I feel like energy goes so far. Like that's what I always say is like, I want to walk into a room and the best compliment. I don't care if people like my outfit, my hair, my shoes, whatever. I want them to leave and be like, damn, she had good energy. Like I left feeling like light and awake and alive. I'm like, that is the best compliment a person can receive. 100%.
So
Ooh,
agree.
yes, energy girls. Okay, well, Sarah, I have so many questions. I'm like, I can go on
Okay.
so many tangents, but I'm like, Morgan, focus, ask what the people want to ask. Okay, so on every podcast, we're called Off the Rails. I do off the rails things, I guess, as I just turned 30, sure, something like that. What is the most off the rails thing that you have done or that has happened to you in your life, like recently, if anything?
Off the rails? I am like the most square safe girl you've ever met. That's so interesting. I'm trying to think if there's anything a little unhinged that I did. I definitely embarrassed myself for my daughter. My daughter is a massive fan of Alex Earl, and I had like literally 30 seconds into meeting her. My daughter's like, "Go be her friend. Go ask for a picture.
Right
go
now.
do this." And I go up to her and I was like, this is like how not off the rails I am, is like me going up to a celebrity and asking for a picture. Was it? No, I mean, I do a lot of like really, I try and like push myself and things, but I'm not a risk taker. Like I'm not
Really
somebody who, I'll tell you the riskiest thing I've done in the last decade. And that was I hiked in Iceland to see a volcano.
Okay.
And I bawled my eyes out. It was so hard. It was so hard to do. Like I cried like a baby. Everyone was like, "Are you good?" I'm like, "This is a very difficult hike." I was not ready for it. But yeah, that's like but no, like I'm not I feel bad. I feel like I'm disappointing the rails a little bit, but I'm just not an off the rails kind of gal. I'm a very for context, I never played sports. I was in a bowling league because you can't get hurt in bowling. So I just don't do
smart. Look, you're not. It's not that you're not risky. You're just smart. You're just a smart girly in her bowling league. She doesn't want to get injured.
To be fair, one of the girls in my bowling league like went on to get like a scholarship at Penn State and like lives in Nashville now. Yeah.
Hey, all right, pop off sis. I'm gonna get her name. Let's bring her on the podcast. I want to talk to you about bowling. Let me tell you, I cannot bowl. So
yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, well, you have done so much. You're a podcaster, you're a speaker, you're a mom. You just walked the Sports Illustrated swimsuit runway in Miami Swim Week, which is insane. But like, let's rewind. Like, how did you get started in all of this? And like, why?
So I had become a mom at a really young age. I, grew up in a very conservative environment. So I got married at 19 because that's what you have to do if you want to have sex and whatnot. So I got married at 19 and was pregnant by the time I was 20, had 3 kids by the time I was 25. But when I was 23 and I had my second daughter, we had moved about 6 hours away from my hometown, and I found myself feeling very, very isolated in not only experience of motherhood, but just like in my life. Mm-hmm. And I remember at the time, a lot of women in Utah had started doing these blogs, and they were crafting blogs and recipe blogs and home decorating blogs. And they were talking about motherhood and talking about all these different things. And I felt for the first time, just by reading their lives, that I wasn't so alone in mine. It was inspiring me to like, I'm stuck in this house all day with these little babies, but like that doesn't mean that I can't do things for myself, and I can't, do crafts and make a really cool something out of nothing. And I would thrift and I would spray paint. And at one point I just decided that I felt like it was a one-sided conversation and I really wanted to be able to talk back. So I started my own blog, and my little girls, they were, 4 months old and 2 at the time. Yeah, about that. And maybe 3. And I named it after them. So I named it after their nicknames, which were Gemma Birdie and Maya Papaya. And so it became The Birds Papaya was the blog, because everyone back then had really cutesy blog names.
Yep. I was going to ask. I was like, where did the name come from?
I know. And like that's like not the cool thing to do anymore. And I've like multiple times been like, guys, so just go by Sarah Nicole Landry. And they're like, shut up, Birds Papaya. Like, you're not allowed. Like, it's there. And so, yeah, like I didn't have any money to start a blog, but I Googled like how to code one. I paid somebody $25 to make me a little logo, and I would basically review things in exchange for products, and I would just like making no money, but getting into the practice of writing and learning how to craft things. Once I made like you could sell ad space on your blog. So if you got a lot of traffic, you could sell like a little ad space bot, and I would take that money and I would buy ads on bigger blogs and just like trying to create community that way.
Okay. And
then Instagram came about, and that was like, okay, now we're shifting over there. And so we shifted over there a little bit, and it stopped being about motherhood and your house and your crafts. And it was a lot more about like what you were wearing and what you were eating and what you were doing. And I was, you know, postpartum after my third, I'm in my 20s, and I'm so uncomfortable because I don't look, and at this point we'd actually moved back to my hometown. So I'm terrified to leave the house. I'm, you know, feeling really away about my body and the fact that I've gained a lot of weight. And so I went on this like very public weight loss journey, and I grew quite a following. At the time, it was around like 60,000 followers, which was like not nothing. And this became my entire personality because I was like, okay, I finally have made it, and this is going to make my life better. I'm going to lose the weight. Everything's going to happen for me. And so like it kind of did in a way. I started getting more opportunity. I was like starting to make a little bit of money, and people just loved this before and after story. What I wasn't sharing was that I actually didn't, and I kind of did. I was like, you know, you don't have to have all the money in the world. You don't have to have a gym membership. You don't, in order to like get active and, you know, start tracking things and like figuring out how to lose weight. And I was doing all of that, but I was doing it very unguided. So I was actually working out up to 3 times a day. I was eating what a toddler should eat in a day. And I was losing weight rapidly because I was in a very disordered relationship with this whole thing. I lost 100 pounds. It was like everyone was so happy for me. It was all they would talk about. It was like, congrats, congrats, congrats. And then I went through a divorce privately, and people didn't know that. And still, I'm like walking. I even lost even more weight. So now I'm like very small. I was a size 0. And I was just walking around like a shell of myself, just so could barely keep a meal down, was so sick. And people would still come up to me and be like, oh my God, congratulations. And I realized that there was like something deeply wrong with the fact that I had created a world in which everyone was so happy for me that I was thin, but I was crumbling. I wasn't doing well. I was barely eating. I was, you know, exercising so much. My body was, I was actually going through a lot of health issues at the time. I lost feeling in my arms and legs for a period. Because the doctor said I had lost so much weight that I was bone on bone. And at no point did they say, do you think you need help? They were just like, congrats on losing weight. I don't know. What? It was like just, nobody was worried about it. Like nobody was calling attention and worried about it. And, I don't know what happened or at what point it happened, but I knew deep down that one, I was becoming so obsessed with what I looked like. The whole purpose in losing weight was so that I could feel like I could be like these other women I had followed, and I could show myself online and be proud of it, that I could leave my house and be proud of it and not anxious and worried. And what was happening as time went on is I was just editing myself more, and I was scared to leave the house because I mean, when you're so used to doing before and afters, I didn't know how to not be an after. And it was just hard. And at the time, I remember finding a couple people who had gone through similar stories of like losing weight and what it's like after the after photo, which is like inevitably finding what your actual health is. And it's not always, you know, staying at a size 0 and working out 3 times a day and eating what a toddler should eat. It was very, very, you know, not great. So I started really working on myself and choosing to find that balance and what was truly healthy for me. And it's interesting because you have to heal in the same spaces that you harmed yourself. It's not like a lot of other things. Like I still had to interact with food every single day. I was still wanting to move my body. I still wanted to have an active life and still reckoning with how dangerously disordered I had made it. So I started openly sharing almost like a journal, the process of going through all of that. And a lot of that was exposure therapy to my cellulite, to my stretch marks, and like coming to terms with the body changes I'd gone through with having 3 kids at a young age, by like gaining and losing weight and gaining back again. So many ups and downs, and really writing my feelings out during it. And at the time, we weren't doing long form captions. I just didn't know where else to put these words. And so I stopped blogging because I started blogging in my Instagram captions, and they started really connecting with people, which was fascinating to me because I didn't know that other people felt the same way that I did, right? Especially when it came to like body issues, because we weren't talking about that then. And people were sharing my work, and I was at my rock bottom of life. I mean, I was living at my parents' house. I have my 3 kids. I'm going through this divorce. I'm knowing that I have to gain weight. I know that I've like now been in this disordered relationship, and I have to figure out where I'm going with any of this, because my platform grew off of being a weight loss girl, and I can't do that anymore because it's killing me. And so something had to give. And so they really met me. I had to almost like figure out who I was and start sharing that version of myself, which was a level of vulnerable that I had never done when I was such a curated version and had the picture perfect family. Like, just so much of me was just picture perfect, but not reality.
Yeah.
And so I started sharing that. And I mean, it wasn't perfect out of the gates. It took me a while before, like, I stopped using a lot of like the editing features, and like it was a while before like I really could start posting photos that weren't like quote unquote flattering of me. Like, it was a lot of practice. And I mean, that still is something that you go through the practice of. And so what was fascinating though was when I started showing up as myself and in that very vulnerable state, and people were connecting and sharing it, I just exploded online. And it was such a soothing balm after a really long time of trying to be something that I just wasn't healthy. It wasn't a great path for me. And so it felt really good to finally feel like I was finding success in healing, and I was finding success in being me, and evolving as a human being. And I've really left up all those old posts where I, fat shame myself and I say horrible things about myself, because I feel like it's really important for us to notice that people can change and like we can live a full life. And the great ending to the story is now I show up in my life, and I know that my body isn't the same as everybody else's, and I show up in my life. And I know that, it can be uncomfortable to have stretch marks and cellulite, but I show up in my life, and I'm just doing it scared. I'm doing it every day. I'm making decisions to show up. I got remarried, had another baby, went through postpartum again 3 years ago. And I just kept saying yes to things, and it has landed me in a beautiful life. Yes, there's a lot that has happened for me online and with my career, but I'm not anxious to leave my house anymore. And I'm not anxious to get in a swimsuit and get in the pool with my kids anymore. I'm not anxious to, truly experience intimacy and let my husband actually hold my body now. I mean, There's so much that this has done for me, and I'm so happy that I got to heal in real time with people. And that's ultimately what I've been doing ever since.
Wow. Literally I have like chills, like such an inspiration. And it goes to show, and I think we're all guilty of like going on the internet and comparing and wanting to be like someone else. And it is honestly, like, I still struggle with this. Like, I do feel like I'm able to pretty much show up as myself, but it's still, you question, like, am I enough? Am like, how do people like me? Do I need to be like someone else? But you are the perfect example of, if you can just be yourself, the good and the bad, it's going to relate to people. And I feel like people always ask me that. And I'm curious what your take is. They say, like, how do you just start showing up online? Like, what is the first step for someone who is like, I'm not comfortable. Like, I don't know who I am. Like, I kind of have this imposter syndrome. Do you have any advice for just like authentically being yourself?
I just think at the end of the day, we have to stop waiting for the feelings to come. I think we have to stop waiting for it to be the perfect moment. If I were to go back and show you my original blogs and my first Instagram posts, we were talking before we started recording about like the original Instagram filters, these like ugly blue things that we thought were so cool. And sorry, there's construction in my head. But you have to cringe. Like, you don't learn to skip rope without like getting a few missteps, right? You have to learn and get in the practice of showing up before you can really figure it out doing it any other way. I was trying things out. Like, I still to this day, I mean, we just brought up the Sports Illustrated thing. Thank you, because I would love to talk about it. But
we are going to get very into that.
No, it's my personality this week. So yeah, no, I think a lot of people, their reaction was, I wish I had your confidence. And I think it needs to be repeated. I didn't have that confidence. I chose it. I had so much imposter syndrome. I questioned multiple times if there was a mistake made that I was invited there. Like, are you guys sure it was me that you, like, did they email the wrong Sarah? Like, did they think it was somebody else? I have not had growth on social media in years. So I was not thinking that this was like suddenly my moment. I was thinking that I was kind of turning in a little bit, right? Like things were changing for me. And so for that opportunity to come now really showed me that there was more to the story. There was more to share and more to say. And I did it having imposter syndrome. I did it being scared. And I talked to my stories. I'm like, I think it's so inspiring to watch people be like confident queens and like go out there and do the damn thing and claim all of it. But I think it's also equally as important to witness people doing things scared. Like, I'm not going to stand here and lie to you and be like, I felt so like yes, every moment I was like, yes, this is it, I am deserving, I am ready. No, I had to run through my brain a million times on a million scenarios. I kept changing my clothes a bunch in the days leading up to it. Like I kept being almost like uncomfortable. Like it was just, if I couldn't make decisions, so I was trying to make little ones along the way. But ultimately, and I was saying this in another podcast, just about the fact that I think for me, it's more important to do it scared, to do it with your knees shaking, do it because you care, than not doing it at all. So if you're waiting on the feeling to feel confident in your body, if you're waiting on the feeling that you like love every part of yourself, you're going to be waiting forever. So just try and say yes, try and show up, try and do as much as you can, because these feelings aren't going away. We have literally been marketed to, and people have profited off of us being insecure. So we probably are going to feel insecure while doing things, but that doesn't have to stop us from doing it. I don't want to ever again feel like I need to change my body before going on a vacation, change my body before getting into a relationship that I deserve to be loved in. I don't want to ever feel like I need to change what I look like in order to post a picture of myself or have my photo taken. Every year on my birthday, I do a photo shoot to remind myself that like there is more to us than just getting engaged, getting married, having children, because that seems to be the moments that we take pictures of women. I want to just celebrate being alive and being here and keep showing up and do it uncomfortable and do it scared.
I love that. I'm also a fan of a birthday photo shoot just because like you made it 365 days. You've changed, you've evolved. You're like, you should be so proud. And I feel like some people, they're like, oh, you're 30. You're still going to do your birthday photo shoots. I'm like, I'm going to do these till I'm 75. I'm gray. I'm in a wheelchair, because I really do think it's worth celebrating. And I always say like, you should do it scared, and like you deserve to be celebrated. Again, not only when you get married, when you have a kid. Like I am not married and I do not have children, and I'm dealing with turning 30 and like all my friends doing that. And I'm like, no. There's still so much about me to celebrate that is not maybe what other people are doing. So guys, if you're listening, have a damn birthday photo shoot. Send us the photos. I would love to see it. And Sarah, I actually took this. I want to talk about your Sports Illustrated runway, but I took this from your Instagram because it really hit hard for me. And I think a lot of people need to hear it. So Sarah wrote, life doesn't end after your 20s. Life doesn't end after children. Life doesn't end after your body changes. Life ends when life ends. So make sure you do some damn good stories and memories for yourself while you have the chance. Like that, I read that 1,500 times. It is so true. And I feel like so many people need to hear that. Like, life is short and it's eventually it will end. So like live and enjoy, because I'm just like, it makes me so sad for so many people. And it's taken me a while to get to where I am, where I'm like living fully and freely. I used to not as much, but I always think like your life could end tomorrow, like literally tomorrow. And it's like, how many of us are going to look back and be like, I wish I would have gotten in the water. I wish I would have taken this opportunity. I wish I would have gone on that date. Like, I don't know. It's just so short and so fleeting. So, like, I related, oh, my God, when you said that.
It's so interesting, too, because as you were talking about, you know, turning 30 and not being married and not having kids, it's funny how some people feel like aging and not having those things is, like, failure. And then there's people like me who had the kids and all this stuff and felt like their life was over in a different way. It's like, it just goes to show that no matter what path you take as a woman, you will be criticized. You will feel like it's not enough. And so here you are turning 30 being like, I haven't done all those things yet. And I turned 30 and was like, I haven't done all of those other things yet. I watched my friends all backpack across Europe and do all these things. And I feel like that's what was so important for me that I had to keep repeating out loud is like, I'm turning 40 this year. I am a mother of 4. I live in a suburban neighborhood in Ontario, Canada, and I'm on a Sports Illustrated runway. Like, I think we need to stop the belief system that one path is it. I think there are so many different paths we can take, and there's no one right one. We just are figuring out and choosing along the way of which one we want to take. There is no right one. Like it is so many, and whatever path you take, it is not over for you. Nothing is
100%.
over. We have so much opportunity, and the path of least regret. Like I think that I've been leaning in so hard. And I mean it, I made a lot of jokes about the SI thing, like if I fall, like at least it'll be a good story. And people were like, don't say that, you won't fall. And I was like, no, but I think you need to understand that there is no failing. Like I will, no matter what, if I fall, that will be such a fucking great story. That'll be so funny. I will get to tell that for the rest of my life. And if it goes well, I will have such a good story and I will tell that for the rest of my life. It's like when you remove, it's same with like people who are hesitant to show up online for the first time or feeling those things. Like if you fail, you've got a great story. Like at least you tried. The path of least regret is so much better than the path of least resistance. And I really think about that all the time, because this whole saying of like, do it for the plot, I think is one of the most important things ever, because then you're like, whatever happens, happens. I'm taking this path. Whatever happens, happens. I'm doing it for the plot. I'm doing it for the story. For me, I always call it my 80-year-old self. I'm doing it for her because she needs some deranged stories to tell, and she can't. Even though she's a very safe girl, I still want to have some good stories. And it's going to mean having to say yes to some things that are maybe a little out there and a little uncomfortable, like it's so important for me. And I think that was really interesting that you were talking about, not having all those things. Well, I did. And we have both that feeling of like, is it over for me? Is it too late? And no, the answer is no.
It's never too late. And what's crazy is like, no matter what path you take, you're allowed to change. I feel like so many of us are like, oh, well, if I do this, I'm stuck. And it's like, nah, like you've got till you're 40, you're 50. Like you can constantly change whenever you want. So this is such a random off the rails thought, but this made me think of what we're talking about. Do you like Noah Kahan? Do you know who Noah Kahan is? Okay.
Yes,
Speaking
I do.
Of all this, did you see when he threw the first pitch at whatever baseball game? Sarah,
Was it bad? Was it terrible?
But it goes exactly what we were saying. Where like, yeah, he could have gone and thrown the perfect pitch, and it would have been an epic story. But I mean, you can imagine how Noah Kahan probably throws a baseball. Like it all worked out. Like it was not good. It was actually probably the worst pitch thrown in the history. It didn't even hit didn't even come close to the guy. Like it was so bad. And then he did a TikTok where I feel like he could have gone on and like made excuses or been like, oh my God, I'm like such a wimp or whatever. And he just made such a funny joke about it. He was like, I went in there, my family and friends were roasting me, but like, I'm still throwing a pitch. Like what a freaking cool story. So I just feel like we should all, what would Noah Kahan do? It's like, yeah, even if you mess up, like it doesn't have to be embarrassing. It can be a fun joke if you want to make it like that. So
no, I so agree. And it was actually funny. I reached out to a girl after I did the walk, because I said to her before I even did this, and I had this attitude of like, whatever happens, happens. I thought about her because when she first walked for SI a couple years ago, she was wearing like this crop t-shirt and like a bathing suit bottom. Her name is Sistine, and if you see the video, it's really funny. But she raises her hands in like this excited moment and flashes the crowd. These are the things that we have nightmares about. She flashed the crowd. Okay. And you know what she did? She giggles and she puts it back down, and she made a post being like, guys, the first time I walked out, I flashed the entire crowd. Like imagine. And the photo was like, it's just so hilarious and so her and so charming. And it probably got more talked about than if everything had gone perfectly, and not in a negative way, but just like she rolled with it. And I kind of had that energy in my head. I'm like, I watched somebody make the mistake and she kept going. And I think we're so conditioned to think that everything we do needs to be perfect, and it needs to, like you said, it needs to be do you think that we would be talking about Noah Kahan's pitch if it wasn't
no one would care.
No one would care, like whatever is a thing, but like the fact that he did it not being perfect means more to me than if somebody walked out there and did a perfect job. Because I'm telling you right now, I did this like charity basketball thing, and same thing happened to me. We made money for the charity if we made a 3-point like throw, and they moved it closer for us, and I couldn't even, like, I was airballing every single one. They were moving it closer and closer to the net. Like, will she get one in? I never got one in. And it was like, all I could do was laugh. Like, what are you going to do? Like,
Right.
I am not a professional athlete. I've literally been in a bowling league. This is the peak of my existence. And so here I am, like, throwing this ball. Yeah, it sucked. And I posted the videos of me getting air balls because I think it meant more to people to see somebody trying and failing to then not see them try at all, or only see them doing it when they're doing it perfectly. And I think that we really have to absorb that message over and over and over again and be exposed to it, that like not everybody is like getting it right on the first go. It's usually like on try 25. Like that nobody's just starting being great, and you have to just figure it out. So just keep showing up and throwing the pitch. You never know.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, just be human. I think that's like the thing. It's like, oh God, it's just like so much more enjoyable in life to understand you're human and you're allowed to make mistakes, and you do not have to be perfect. It has taken me 30 years to get to that point, and I still struggle with it. But like, once you can let that idea of like just stop giving a shit, once you just out the window, life becomes 10 billion times more enjoyable. And I'm sure you also can understand that.
I think it's fun to learn along the way. If you get things wrong, if you get things right all the time, what are you learning? If you're not, like, this is what I say all the time. If you don't look at your old Facebook posts and cringe, and your old like your own social media things, and you're not cringing at who you were, then maybe you haven't evolved. Like, we need to look at who we were to see where we are. And I think of it all the time when we watch like old TV shows and they seem so outdated. And it's like, good. I'm glad that I noticed that. I don't need to not watch the show. I just need to note that, like, wow, we've really evolved as a society. You couldn't say that today. Like that would, not hit the same way. But like, look how we've changed. Like, I said things about my own self and body 6-7 years ago that I would be mortified to say today. And I'm proud of that. We need to be able to learn and evolve and make mistakes. And I think people are so scared to make mistakes because there's so many people watching now. And it's unfortunate because we're never going to we are human. We are a collective human experience. We're going to get things wrong. Let that be a lesson for you. Let that be a learning point, not something that makes you hide and never show up again.
Right, 100%. And it's only going to bring other people closer to you, because what people don't realize, I feel like, is people relate when you aren't perfect. I feel like so many of us on social media feel the pressure of like, well, I'm going to get followers and likes if like I'm perfect and filtered and beautiful. And it's like now, especially in 2024, it's like it's actually so opposite. People want to feel like they're talking to a human. I think that's why you've done so well and people connect with you, is because you're, even though you have 2 point whatever million followers, you're a human, and it doesn't feel like you're this unattainable celebrity. And I think that's really what people like.
I still have had moments, like, I'll be honest, like, I had my first ever like red carpet photos last week, and I felt a little weird posting them at first because I was like, I do actually look so bomb in these. And
in the silver dress?
Like, yeah, the silver dress moment. But I mean, it was such a moment where I'm like, it's also okay to like be, like, we were just talking about this. I was just talking to Hunter because we walked the runway together. But I had this moment where I decided like not to be like silly and goofy and fun, even though a lot of people know that version of me. I wanted to look fierce on that runway because I didn't want to associate showing my body in that world stage as being a joke or being funny. I wanted it to echo being fierce, being like beautiful, owning it, powerful. I didn't want it to come off as like, ha ha ha, this is a funny joke. I needed it, even though like there's a moment and you can watch it in my face because when I dropped the sarong, there was like cheers that erupted. I expected silence. So when cheers erupted, it was like, you can see my face sort of like twitch. Like I was like so ready to be like, oh my God, like, and like lose that moment. But I was so intentional about wanting to do that, the same way I was intentional about, even on that red carpet moment, looking so bomb. And even though I felt a little insecure, like this is really putting, like it does sort of separate you from like that reality, like what is most people's reality is like not being on a red carpet every day. Like I felt a little awkward about it. But I also used that opportunity to like not put on shapewear or anything and let people like see my belly button showing through the dress. Like that was also an intentional choice. So I think even in the moments, like I love relatability, and I also don't want people ever to feel like it's a box that they have to stay in, because we're going to relate to people in different ways and it's going to change all the time. A lot of people started following me when I was literally living paycheck to paycheck, living at my parents' house or as a single mom. And so I don't ever want to be like that. My relatability also squashes my opportunity. I don't want it to be that. So I still want to show up as myself. And I'm also going to say yes to opportunities. I'm also hoping to grow. I'm also hoping to like do more with my life and my career. And so it's interesting because there is like one side of people who don't want to show the raw, real stuff. And then there's like me who like shows that so much that I was uncomfortable showing my successes because then I felt like, what if people feel like it's not relatable? And I realize now that there is like harm in both, right? Like we really have to give ourselves permission to like show up and figure out what that means, and still know that like if somebody doesn't relate to this 1% of your story, doesn't mean that you're like, right. There's not that you have no value or other things to give you. And if people don't relate to you anymore, or there's been people I followed at a time that it was so important to me because we were talking about weight loss or fitness and in really big ways, and then over time I was like, this actually isn't connecting for me anymore because I'm on a different path. That doesn't mean that I don't support you. It just means that I'm in a different place. And I feel like people are probably having that same experience with me, right? Like, which is like, they watched me from sort of the trenches, and now I'm sort of coming into a different place. And so I think it's been really important for me to simultaneously own that and not belittle it or make it small, because it can be really uncomfortable as women to share success stories as well. Like enter the Barbie speech, right? Like so many of us feel that you're supposed to be humble about everything, but also confident and share your wins, but don't share them too loud. And it echoes everywhere in every part of our lives. So I've definitely had that moment of like, oh, have I, can I share these really good pics, even though they're probably not relatable? And so I'm really glad that I showed up in that space too.
I'm also so happy because you looked so bomb. So it's like those deserve to be shared. And yeah, I think that's such a good point. It's like, I think just doing what feels best for you. Like, yeah, be relatable. But yeah, if you want to be hot and put on a hot outfit because it makes you feel good, it's like, I think also people forget it's like, it's your social media. Like, I forget that sometimes. Like,
I'm sure my home. I'm decorating in my home. This is like my photo album. Yeah.
Yes, and half the time I'm like, well, like, what do people want to see? Like, what do they, like, I'm giving a piece of myself to these people because they also give, me a job. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's like, well, what makes me feel good? Like, I think that's what we kind of all, even if you're not on social media, need to like take a step back and realize. Just like, an important little reminder.
I do it all. Like I've been doing these like weekly recaps where I just like do photos, and photos bomb on social media these days. So
yes, I feel you, girl.
Like, it's still important for me because I'm like, I'm going to one day look back, and I scroll back on my own social media all the time to remember things. These memories pop up for us now. I don't want it to be only one message and one thing. It's also my home and like my space, and I want to share these things, and I know that they're not going to get as highly engaged with, but it's the full picture, right? And I think we are on such a ride of like, what is going to be successful? And that's so unpredictable and also so unfair for us to constantly feel like we aren't enough, even in like our little moments that we feel like sharing. At one point, I don't do New Year's resolutions, but I decided to, at the beginning of 2021, I was going to start posting what I called the fluff, because I feel like a lot of people show up online and they're like, okay, this is my thing, this is my niche, and I don't do any of those other things. And I was like, I want to post the fluffy stuff. Like, I want to post this really cool photo I took. I want to post this makeup tutorial, even though I'm not a makeup guru. I just want to do this. Like, let me try. And I mean, I think a lot of us went through the discomfort of when everything became video and we didn't even know how to edit videos or take videos. And we're trying to do TikTok trends and dancing. Gosh, that wasn't the version of me that I feel like I should have been trying for, but at least we tried. Like, at least we did something. At least we got it going. So let things, and I say this because when I started sharing content like I do today, that was the stuff that originally bombed. Like, that was the stuff that people didn't relate to because they were used to seeing this quote unquote perfect version of me. That when I started showing them the imperfections, no wonder it didn't connect for everybody. but it did connect with an entire new group, and it did connect for the people that were ready to stay on this journey with me. And I try and remember that, like, ultimately, like, if this is your home and these are the photo albums that you're putting out and this is the stuff you're putting out, these are like how you're decorating your walls. People can come and look, and they might walk past them, or they might stay and talk about it. They might take a picture. You don't know what that impact is, but it shouldn't hold you back and make you feel boxed in, because it's different from what you've ever done. And I think I'm still learning that, because we are people, but we are also, in a way, brands, and we're measured by numbers, and it can be really interesting to go through that journey of, you know, what that feels like day in and day out. So you really have to self-regulate to be like, what do I want to post? What do I want to share? What feels important to me? And the right people will connect with it.
Amen to that. Well, speaking of new experiences, we've got to talk about your new personality. We've Miss Sports Illustrated runway model. Like,
it is my personality this week. Yeah.
I want to hear, I just want the behind the scenes, the tea. First, I have to ask, like, how did you find out about it? What was your reaction? Did you fall to the ground? Like, just like walk me through, like, I'm imagining, I'm like, did someone just text you? Like, was it official? Was there confetti? Like, what happened?
Oh my God. It's actually the wildest story. So I have been wanting this for about 6 years. Like, Sports Illustrated, the magazine, wanted it for about 6 years. But just like always, like, it was out there, like almost like a joke. Like, it was just like, oh, maybe one day. And then a couple years ago, my friend Hunter, who is a Sports Illustrated model, she was like, you need to actually apply. Like, why are you not applying? And I was like, okay, you're right. Like, let's apply. So I applied, but you did it, the way that they did it then was like, you did a video and you submitted it in an app, and you could see, like, I mean, there was tens of thousands of people. So it very much was like, listen, we shot the shot, and I never heard anything back, and that's fine. I've done a few things where, like, I also want to be in a Christmas movie at some point, and I read a script for, like, a lead role. I have no business in acting. I've never done it in my life, and I was like auditioning for a lead role. Like, who are you? But I did it because I was like, listen, if you don't know,
why not?
Why not? So we tried it out, and so I remember telling people, like, I applied for Sports Illustrated, and I want to say that out loud because, like, I think it's important that we at least go for the things that we want and don't just, like, sit back and wait. But I never did hear back. I never heard anything. And the last couple years have happened, and I've actually had, like, the worst year of my life this last year. I've had, even though everything has been, like, check off all the boxes of everything that that should make me happy, I fell into a really bad depression and ended up getting diagnosed with a condition called PMDD. Which is like a very extreme form of PMS that can cause very high risk suicidal thoughts and, like, self-harm thoughts, and just very, very, very catastrophic thinking. And so I was, like, falling into these really deep depressions and very much trying to protect myself. I was having to say no to more things and more opportunities because everything was just making me so anxious. So I was on a trip. I shoot a lot with a brand called NYX. They are a swim and underwear and clothing line known for their leak-proof stuff, and I was on their swim trip, and we were finished shooting the swim, and I was sitting with my friend Lauren, who's also a Sports Illustrated model. I swear I don't just hang out with them. I just happen to know two of them, and I met them through them doing these things, and she was a model, so she was hired for the shoot. And she was like, have you ever been to Miami? And I was like, no, I haven't. And she's like, we should do a girls trip to Miami. I'm like, that would be so cool. And so we walked away from that conversation. And I checked my Slack, like that's how my team communicates. So I have a manager, and I have two people that work for me. And I got this message from my manager being like, Sports Illustrated would like you to walk in their runway show, like as a surprise walkout or whatever for their Miami swim week. And I was like, as much as this isn't going to make sense for a lot of people after having a dream for that long, I wasn't well, and I was very protective of my wellness. And I thought, I don't know that I have the capacity to go on that level of a stage and take in what people will say to me and of me. I don't know that I'm ready. And so I initially was like, it was really cool to be asked. I can always say that I was asked, but I think that's going to be a no from me. But I was like, she was like, just take a day to think about it. I'm like, okay, I'll take a day to think about it. And I told a couple of my friends, and they were like, we're overriding your no. You're saying yes. You have wanted this for so long. What are you thinking? Do not let anybody steal this from you. Don't let any of those dark thoughts win. Like, you like in that moment and reflectively when I look back, I'm like, I feel like I was a broken apart version of myself. And this was like 2 months ago, just to be real. Like because I was in one of those low pits at the moment. And so I felt like I was standing there holding these pieces of me and they were just gluing them back together and handed it back to me. And I said yes, because they were like, sorry, you're not, like, that's not happening. It turned out that night was like that very night that I was asked, and after I'd had that conversation with Lauren Chan, that it was a manifestation moon that night. And I'm not somebody who like is very woo-woo like that, but it was like a pink strawberry moon, and there was some like manifestation power. And so we were like, how did that just happen that we said we wanted to have a girls' weekend in Miami, and then an hour later I was asked to walk in it. And then, I mean, we were both in Miami last weekend and we're like, holy shit, that was really wild. So that's what happened. That's how it all came about. I still don't know who it was behind it. I don't know how the ask came. I don't know how long they've been watching, how long they've been aware of me. I don't know the answers to anything. It almost feels like they're just out there and observing. Okay. And I know that Sports Illustrated, I was just watching today, I didn't realize that back in the day, Kate Upton, when she was on the cover, was very strongly bullied for her body, which is wild. She was like 19 years old, and she's like the perfect,
stunning. Yeah,
I mean, so stunning. And the editor MJ she said this on the Hot Mess podcast with Alex Earl, that she was saying that that's when they realized they had a responsibility to start changing. If somebody like Kate Upton was being so harshly criticized for her body, then they wanted to change some of the conversations, and they started changing a lot of they wanted to be at the forefront of being a lot more inclusive and representing more people. And so I do think that they were just watching and like, she's somebody who's willing to show up in a very obvious postpartum body. I have stretch marks up to my ribs and loose skin, and I show for it. And not only did I walk it in a string bikini. So it was like, how do we do this?
And you also looked fire. Like, so good.
I'm so proud of it, because I just think like this felt so, and I was saying this earlier, I'm the same girl that like when I met my husband, we started dating like 8 years ago. I was wearing t-shirts around him in the bedroom and like walking backwards out of the room so he like wouldn't see my cellulite on the back of my thighs. I'm like, how is that girl now the girl that went through gaining more weight, having another baby, and then now is walking on a runway and showing it all? I mean, it's just such a powerful moment. And I think I've been working so hard on just what it is to say yes and let the impact be the impact. And I knew that there was going to be negativity, but I felt like it was more important for the people that really needed it, that I did this. And so I was so grateful for the opportunity. I was so grateful to walk that runway. I could not have anticipated how viral it went this last week. I posted multiple videos, but for whatever reason, one, it's up to like 23 million views at this point, and it is just blowing my mind watching people. What I felt was like I've already said this. I've already been showing this stuff for years. Like, it didn't feel new for me, and I really was reminded that like there's whole parts of the world that have still not seen that. And I think what's more important for me was how many people were like, I bought a damn bikini after I saw that, or like I watched Sports Illustrated for the first time just to watch you, and it like changed me. And I was like, okay, there's something that we're doing here, and it's not just about me and my own healing journey. We are, the only reason I applied was because I watched my friend Hunter be in it. You know what I mean? Like, she set in motion like even me believing that I could, and that ended up being that I did. And I've really had to own what it is to say things and believe them for yourself. And even in the last week, one of the girls that were on the trip was like, you need to start saying things out loud, and you need to be the first to believe them, not the last. And that has changed me forever, because I will never look at another dream and be like, oh, it's such a far, long shot, never going to happen. If I believe it for myself first, it's not if it works out or not. It's not if we get the perfect pitch. It's the fact that we threw the damn ball. Like, why not? Like, I would rather say yes to myself and let other people be the ones to say no, but I'm not going to be the one to do it. I'm not going to be the one that says it. I did a video not long ago that talked about, like, I know people aren't going to like me, but I'm not going to be one of them. Like, I'm done in that business. We've spent so much of our lives hating ourselves. I'm done. It's exhausting. I don't want to be there. I don't want to live in that. Like we said earlier, like, we get one shot at this. And I think we keep we are all collectively waiting for this perfect moment to do anything. And we're all changing. We're all aging. We're all going to ebb and flow in our bodies. Things are never going to be perfect, but can we show up there? And is that enough? Because I'm telling you, it's been such an incredible journey to see how much is out there when you start saying yes to yourself first.
I mean, you are the perfect example of it with just like walking the Sports Illustrated runway. Like that is that statement alone.
At 39 as a mother of 4. Are you kidding me? My daughter turns 18 tomorrow. Like what? Like,
also, do you realize like you are like the coolest mom? I'm like I
try to tell my kids that. They humble me.
I'm like at 18, I'm like, I wish my mom, I would be like, my mom was on a runway in a bikini for Sports Illustrated. Like, what is that? Wait, so cool. Walk me through, because like, look, a lot of us, like, I'm gonna dream big. I also, fun fact, did apply. I mean, maybe a few years ago for the Sports Illustrated Swim Search when they send in the video. So like, guys, always shoot your shot, even if you don't hear back. I think someone actually did ask me like on an Instagram Q&A. They were like, "Oh my God, like, are you bummed you didn't hear anything back?" And it honestly didn't even cross my mind. I was just so proud that I hit
You
submit.
finished your part. Yeah.
Yep.
You did your part. You did your part.
All I wanted to do was take the step to hit submit, and from there, be proud. And if something happens, awesome. If not, it's not like it's a thumbs down or like anything bad. You still took the step. And I think that is so freaking important. But I am curious because, like, look, a lot of us will not be backstage at a Sports Illustrated runway show. So, like, can you walk me through, like, what is Backstage? What did you do leading up to it? How did you hype yourself up? I'm assuming you were nervous. Like, just give me the behind the scenes a little bit here.
I really thought that it was interesting that they had us do the red carpet first and then the walk. But
I didn't know that.
Like, so we actually go into hair and makeup. So they have us in hair. So we walk a rehearsal at 5 o'clock till 5:45. That goes really quickly. We only got like one chance. It was just like a quick, like, this is what it's going to look like. But it's in the middle of the day. It's a runway over a pool. So their biggest things was just like where you're going to stop at the end. Just taking note of that, what the pace of the show is going to be, and onward. So then from there, we leave that. We head into hair and makeup at, I think it was 7 o'clock. So it's 7 o'clock. They've got dinner there. We're doing hair and makeup. They're like making little TikToks. We're having a lot of fun. And from there, we go right to the red carpet. So red carpet is first. You put on your dress. You're into red carpet. As soon as you're done red carpet, you come back. You put on a robe. And they had this like back entrance to going towards the pool, which is where we were going to do the walk. There, it's like this big curtained off area, and we're all in there in our robes, and there's racks of all of our swimsuits. So you have 2 looks each. So you have your first and your second. So you go in, you have somebody there to assist you getting into your suit, and there's all these pictures of like who's going where, and you're having quick conversations with the girls in front and behind you, because you're going to have this crossover moment, and you have to decide what you're going to do in that crossover moment. So my first crossover moment was with, I believe, Kristen Harper. And she was really nice. I'd only met her like that day. She was super nice. And we did like this little moment of like a little high five to each other. Then on the way back, so I did my first walk, and on the way back, you do like I did a hip pump with Hunter, which was really cool. She's the reason I applied. So we had this like really cool moment. And then as soon as you get back there, you're immediately like stripping off, and like somebody's there putting on your next look, styling you with your new jewelry. And it feels like 30 seconds and you're back in line ready to walk for the second time. And as soon as I did the second walk, I came out and Hunter was back there, and she goes, "How did that feel?" And I just burst into tears, because it just felt like such a like accumulation of so many emotions and so many years and so much healing and so much work, that it was just like this one moment of like huge representation for myself in all of that. And then immediately like, okay, the whole group's walking out, and I was like, oh my God, I forgot there's one more. And so then we go out again, and it's funny because when you watch the videos of everyone on that like final walk out, I remember they said don't jump because it's glass over a pool, and everyone starts jumping, and I'm just like the panic. You can see like I'm a little bit like, just be really careful. They told us it's glass, as you know, I'm a very safe girl, so I'm like, we need to be careful on this glass. No, it was amazing. Alex Earl's little sisters were walking in it as well, and
so cute.
Her one sister I was like, how are you feeling? Are you nervous? And she was like, no, I'm not nervous. Why would I be nervous? I was like, I don't know. I'm nervous. And she was like, she looks at me. She's like, you are amazing. You have nothing to be worried about. You have nothing to be nervous for. You own that. You deserve to be here. You're going to walk out there and you're going to kill it. And I just like looked at Alex and she was like, and I was like, what just happened? She just gave us like she's like 8 and she just like schooled us on how to walk confidently. And I was like, well, this little girl believes in me. Who am I to argue this? So it was that was really cool that she was just, I don't know, I just met her, but she was a really cute kid and she just like pumped us all up. And but everyone was I think what fascinated me was that there was a lot of balls of like nerves. Mm-hmm. And I think I thought everyone else was just going to be like so confident and so have it all together. And I mean, they were shaken scared too. And I thought, good, because me too. And yeah, I think alone. I was really anticipating that I would be the only one feeling nervous because I was new, and no, everyone had that nerves and they all walked out and did an incredible job. So it was really cool to see both witness them having that and witness them walk and knowing that those two things actually go together. They're not separate from each other.
Yeah. Look, at the end of the day, everyone's human. Taylor Swift, runway models, all of us, we get nervous. And I feel like so many people forget that. It's like, no.
Yeah. We watch people and we're like, man, I wish I could be like that. Okay, do it. To be like that. I walked out there like I knew what I was doing. I have not walked an actual runway in my life. And I like what else are we gonna do? Actually, my most off the rails moment was really trying out for that Christmas movie as a lead.
That is actually a great story.
Yeah, that's definitely peak doing something out of my realm. But yeah, like I think it's more important that we show up and we do the damn things than we do it perfectly. And I think that's the ethos of this whole episode.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Throw the pitch. You know what? Honestly, thank you, Noah Khan, for doing that and me somehow stumbling across that TikTok, because that has been the theme of this whole entire podcast. But Sarah, I know we've got a pod swap. We got to wrap up.
We're going to swap it over to mine.
I'm so excited. So y'all go head over to her podcast to listen to me chit chat. But before we go, a lot of girls flooded my DMs. And guys, I'm so sorry I couldn't get to all of your questions. But I think the overarching question is that people want to know is like, when you're having a low confidence day, which we all have them, what are your tips for just showing up? Like, do you have just maybe 2, 3 that are your go-tos that are applicable for just anyone who needs them?
I think the most important thing is try and separate yourself from the thing. Like, so I think for me, what's more important is not necessarily having the feeling of confidence to go do the thing, but going and doing the thing and that being what is your confidence. Like you're doing it. Showing up, I think, is more important than anything that comes after. I think for the longest time, I really wanted to skip people ahead to where I was in the journey, which was I was wearing the shorts, I was wearing the bikinis, and I would be like, just do it. It's so amazing. Not everybody's there. And I was really reminded of that when I went through this last postpartum, because I was not comfortable. I did not connect with my body. I did not know her. I was grieving. And what kept me between doing something or not was in how it was going to show up. So that's where I started to be like, the one piece has a place in our world. The sarongs have a place in our world. If you need to wear a muumuu to the beach, it has a place in your world. It doesn't matter how you do it. It matters that you show up in your own life, however you do it. And if you are desiring to wear the bikini and that's like a huge healing moment for you, please go for it. I think that's so cool and so important. And there's nothing like that first time of doing that. But I think we really need to de-escalate what loving yourself looks like. And I think we need to not let it be that it is another thing we're failing at. And it's another thing that we're just getting wrong. I think it's more important that we show up and we live this one precious life of ours and we stop waiting on the look and the feeling to get us there, because it'll follow. It'll come. You will come to connect with your body. You will come to connect with who you are. And as you're changing and as you're evolving, if you let yourself do things a little bit more uncomfortably and a little bit more scared, and that's basically what I've learned. So if I'm going to give anybody a tidbit of advice is, if you are, wanting to do something and it's big and it's huge and you're scared, try to figure out the ways that make you feel the most comfortable in your yes. And if it's something you really want to push yourself in, cool, do that big thing. But like if you want to wear, like I actually came up with an outfit that I called the squirrel suit with a brand because I needed something that was just like, didn't let me think about my body, something that was just comfortable that you put on. Because sometimes we just need that stepping stone between like doing something and not, and sometimes it is in what you wear. But I will also say that on some of my hardest body image days have been the moments that I've pushed myself the most. And I remember I had one a year and a half ago where I was having a really, really low body image day, but the dress that I ordered was like this see-through sequin thing. And I was like, oh my God, what was I thinking? And I decided, I'm like, whatever, I'm having a low body image day. Like, it's not going to be perfect every day. And I put on the damn dress and I went out there and I never thought about my body again that night. Like, I just didn't. Like, it was just such a momentary thing. And I think so many of us are trying to escape the feelings. Like, we just want to never have them. They're going to be there. We live in this culture. We live in this society. It's part of it. It's part of it, especially as women. Figure out how to say yes, because it is more important that you figure out how to show up than it is that you stay home and live small. Don't play small with your own life. Just do whatever the hell you can to show the F up. And that's all I can say.
Mic drop with that one, guys. Just show up. Sarah, I could talk to you literally all day long, but guys, I really hope I'm inspired from this podcast. I want to go out and I'm like, what can I say yes to? I'm like, I'm going to make a list. I'm like, let's go do some crazy things. So I hope you guys are equally as inspired. Sarah, thank you so much. For those listening who do not follow you, which guys, you absolutely should. I am obsessed with your page. I have been for years. Where can they find you online?
Yeah, find me at The Bird's Papaya on Instagram and everywhere else. And I have the Papaya Podcast is where your interview will be coming up in the next few weeks. So you can find your interview over there. I'm excited. We're about to get into it. I have no idea what we're going to talk about, which is honestly the best.
I love those kind of days.
Slate. Yes, it's going to be a good one.
Amazing. Well, guys, thanks so much for listening. I will see everyone next week and head to the Papaya Podcast to hear more from me. Bye, guys. Thanks so much for listening to Off the Rails podcast. It's been real, it's been unhinged, and I'll see everyone next week. In the meantime, do all the podcast things, like, listen, leave a 5-star review, and catch up with me on socials at Off the Rails with Morgan. Bye.